Well, are you a self regulated learner? And are you good at metacognition? Because if you are, you're likely to be a very successful learner. And that's why we're interested in developing this capability in our students. However, there's some confusion between the terms, and I'm going to try and sort that out in this first slide. So, what do we mean by self regulated learning? Well, Zimmerman, expert in the field, refers to the processes by which students activate and sustain cognition. That's basically mental activity they're thinking. Invariably, their behaviour and effect, which is motivation, and connected to that is one's emotions. So it's about the total management of the person, the student, towards meeting desired goals. So, what's metacognition then? Well, have a look at that. And what you'll see is it looks like the same animal, so to speak. The awareness, ability to monitor and control one's cognitive processing in order to enhance learning, which is pretty much related to goals. And it's both conscious, sub-unconscious, as is all learning. And the new views on metacognition from neuropsychology talk about not just managing one's thinking, because often people talked about metacognition as thinking about thinking, but it's now about managing the whole being, including emotional regulation. So, is there really much difference between the two things? Well, fortunately, we're not going to be too concerned. And while researchers can argue which of the two terms is the superordinate component, and as you can see, there's different views on that, we're not going to go there. What we're interested in is, well, what do people that are self-regulated and are good at metacognition, what do they actually do that makes their learning more effective and efficient? So let's have a look at some of these, and they should be instantly recognizable. That despite the confusion in terminology, there's at least agreement on what are the key practical learning processes and practices. And one of the key ones is to set key goals for learning. And we know that setting goals, having clear, challenging but achievable goals is an important motivational agent in learning, as well as connected to eye attainment. Secondly, knowing what learning involves. In other words, it's a bit like anything else. If you know what's involved, it's easier to do it. So students should be systematically taught, and this should just be part of everyday teaching, how learning occurs. It's taking in information, it's getting it into organized mental structures in long-term memory. It's making connections through thinking. It's developing skills through deliberate practice, knowing what to learn, when to learn it, where and how. This should be a fundamental part of good everyday teaching. And what are the specific learning strategies? For example, if one is trying to organize one's information into more manageable chunks, classify it, categorize it, whatever. Mind mapping is a useful tool, and many of us have used it, and I certainly did, and I found it tremendously useful in terms of managing cognitive load, helping me to feel that I was able to get that information nicely organized in long-term memory. And we know that rehearsal and review techniques are tremendously important, again, in consolidating knowledge and understanding in long-term memory. Equally important is the ability to manage oneself at that personal level of beliefs. We know that where students have a growth mindset, where they know that or believe that with good effort, getting feedback from teachers, using learning strategies, and keeping a positive state of mind, they're more likely to be able to achieve their goals, especially if they can persevere over time. And that's an important thing that students must learn, that learning doesn't always come easy. It often takes a lot of effort over time. And if you don't persevere, you don't get there. Hence, they need, through the process, to be able to monitor and review their progress. And when things are not working or they feel they need to make certain adjustments or try different strategies to actually change aspects of the learning strategy. And we know that feedback is so important in this process. And where good feedback is given to students and students are developing metacognition, that's a great integrated way to help them to learn better. So it's not surprising that students who are able to self-regulate their learning, use effective metacognition, do experience, as compared to students who don't do these things, significant gains in attainment. And there's the effect size from John Atty, who's done a lot of research on that. In this last slide, we're just going to put down a bit of an advanced organizer on how we, as teachers, can go about helping our students develop this metacognitive self-regulatory capability. And it's not surprising that the research shows that it's really important to explicitly teach these skills, because if they don't see here and now demonstrations of metacognitive thinking, as for all types of thinking, they may not know how to go about doing it. So make your thinking in these areas visible. Show the students what you are thinking in your head when you are being metacognitive. Model it for them. Get them to ask questions about what you're doing, because they will need to develop that capability through repeated opportunities, deliberate practice. It's like demonstrating anything, how to make something. You've got to understand how to do it first. Then through good, independent and guided practice, develop the capability. So we need to model these skills. And I like the quote from Schwarr. Well, that's why I put it in the slide. Modelling of these regulatory skills, the planning, monitoring, self-evaluation, are really important. And it's well documented that they are highly effective in helping students to meet their goals. So, as he says, every teacher should make a concerted effort to model explicitly these behaviours.